Okay, so we are in our student companion on page 91. We're doing the problem solving section. So our launch is approximate population data for adults and children in the most and least populous U.S. states in 1 year according to the U.S. Census Bureau are shown. What is the total population for each state in scientific notation, and justify your answer. Okay, so here we have California, the most populated state, and Wyoming, the least populated state. So we're just going to add up all of these people. We're going to add up 2.69 times 10 to the 7th adults, 9.44 times 10 to the 6th children, and we're going to add that to these two here. Okay, so I'm going to write first 2.69 times 10 to the 7th. That's going to represent this one right here. Then I'm going to write this one here. 9.44 times 10 to the 6th. And then I'm going to write these two totals in the same color blue. We're going to have 3.98 times 10 to the 5th and 1.26 times 10 to the 5th. Now notice how my decimals are lined up, and I need to get all of my exponents to equal powers of 5 so that we can add up all these. So if I move this down to 5, down, that means I'm moving this up how many? 2 slots. So this now becomes 269 times 10 to the 5th. So how I'm going to write that is 269.00 times 10 to the 5th. Now if I move this one here, I want to move it down to 5, because remember we want all of our powers of 10 to be the same. That means I move this one larger over one space. I get 94.4 times 10 to the 5th. So now I can add all these up together. 8 plus 6 plus 0 plus 0 gives me 14. 9 plus 1 plus 2 plus 4 gives me 16. I can bring my decimal down. 1 plus 3 gives me 4, plus 1 is 5, plus 9 is 14, plus 4 is 18. Carry the 1. This is 7 plus 9, that gives me 16. Carry the 1. And this gives me 1 plus 2 is 3. So this is now 368.64 times 10, and remember our power stays the same, to the 5th. Well, we all know this is not in scientific notation. In order to put it in scientific notation, we need to move this over twice. So we now have 3.6864. Since that number went down, that means this number goes up 2 times, which gives me times 10. 5 plus 2 is 7. So there we go. Our answer for the entire population for these two states, California and Wyoming, is 3.686 times 10 to the 7th people. Alright, how can you tell that California has more people than Wyoming just by comparing the adults and children populations? So if we look up here, notice how California's exponents are larger than Wyoming's exponents. So we can just put larger exponents here, because right off the bat, if they have larger exponents, they're going to have larger numbers and more people. Larger exponents. Alright, go ahead and turn your page. You are now on the Got It. You should be on page 92 at this point. It says, which of the following is the most appropriate way to represent the distance from our solar system to the nearest star? Well, and that's the sun, I believe. Proxima Centauri. So do we want to measure that distance in feet, in light years, or in meters? In this case, you should know. It's going to be in light years. Now when we do the U-tries, we're going to use this space for work. So keep that space blank. So basically this question here, I want you to be answering it in this space right here. I'm going to do it here, but you don't have that much room. So this is the U-try, and it's on page 93. Okay, but again, you can be showing your work underneath this question, and it requires a lot of work. So it takes light 8.5 minutes to travel from the sun to the earth. Light travels at 9.82 times 10 to the 8th feet per second. How far does light travel from the sun to the earth? Express the distance in scientific notation using the most appropriate unit from the given list. So the most appropriate unit, obviously right off the bat, is going to be given in miles. However, of course, they give us how fast the light travels in feet per second. So we're going to have to do a whole bunch of conversions. So first of all, we want to know how many seconds, because we're feet per second, how many seconds are in 8.5 minutes. So we're going to times 8.5. We're going to multiply that by 60, because there's 60 seconds in 1 minute. How many of them are in 8.5? So here we're going to get 0, 0, 0, 0, because that's 30. 6 times 8 is going to give me 48 plus 3, that gives me 51. So this is 510 seconds in 8 minutes, in 8.5 minutes. So we're going to take that 510 seconds, we're going to turn it into scientific notation. So remember, we move our decimal over twice, so this is now 5.1 times 10 to the second power. We're going to multiply that by how many feet it has to go. It has to go this much feet. It has to go 9.82 times 10 to the 8th feet. Alright, so what is 5.1 times 9.82? Well, let's do it. Let's do 9.82 times 5.1. So this is 982. This gives me 10. 41. 9 times 5 is 45, plus 4 is 49. This 2 plus 2, 0 is 2, 8 plus 0 is 8. This gives me 10, 10. So that gives me 50.082. And what does that show? That shows me this answer is 50.082 times 10, and when we multiply, we add our exponents to the 10th. Well, of course, and this is how many feet light has to go, right? We're solving for feet here. So, of course, this isn't in scientific notation. We have to move this over. That gets lower, which makes this get higher. So this is 5.0082 times 10 to the 11th power. That's how many feet light has to go to travel from the sun to the earth. Well, then they say, so now we kind of have an answer. Then they say, express the distance in scientific notation using the most appropriate unit from the given list. And as we said before, the most appropriate unit is miles. So of course we have to convert all these feet to these miles. So I told you there was a lot of work. So we know that they're given from this list. We know that there's 5,180 feet in 1 mile because it's equal to each other. So we're going to divide this amount of feet from 5.0082 times 10 to the 11th. Let's go ahead and convert this to scientific notation. If we do that, then we get 1, 2, 3. This is 5.28 times 10 to the 3rd power. So now we just have to figure out what's 5.0082 divided by 5.28. Well, you might be thinking, oh gosh, you guys, I really don't want to do all this math. So I'm going to do it for you, and I'm going to encourage you on your homework to the little calculator button. Okay, so you're looking for the answer. When you divide 5.0082 and 5.28, you get 0.94, and we're going to round it, 949, times 10, and remember we subtract these, so this is going to be to the 8th power. Of course, this is not in scientific notation, so we move this over 1, which makes it larger, which means we move this one down 1, which makes it smaller. So this is 9.49 times 10 to the 7th. And this is how many, not feet, but miles sunlight has to travel in order to get to Earth. Alright, now we're moving on to number 2. We're going to do this one together too. And if you have any room left over on page 92, please use that space. Okay, the area of the world's largest country is about 6.6 times 10 to the 6th miles squared. The area of the world's smallest country is about 1.7 times 10 to the negative 1 mile squared. About how many times larger is the area of the largest country from the area of the smallest country, expressed in scientific notation? So first, I'm going to encourage you to look at this word about. This means we're going to be rounding. So we have 1.7. We have 6.6 times 10 to the 6th divided by 1.7 times 10 to the negative 1st. Alright, so let's do this. We know how to divide. We have 6.6 on the inside and 1.7 on the outside. We move this over 1, which moves this over 1. 17 goes into 66 3 times. 3 times 17 gives me 51, with a remainder of 15. 17, remember that's where a decimal. 17 doesn't go into 15, so we can add a 0. 17 goes into 150 about 8 times. 17 times 8 gives me 136. 150 minus 136 gives me 14. So we're going to stop there. We're going to leave it 3.8. We're rounding. Now we're going to 3.8 times 10 to the 6 minus negative 1. What is 6 minus negative 1? That gives me 7. So the area of the smallest, or excuse me, the area of the largest country is about 3.8 times larger than the area of the smallest country. So 3.8 times larger. Alright, so now we're moving on to the got it. You're trying to figure out what is the value of n. So we have 5 times 10, 1.5 times 10 to the 21st, and that equals 3 times 5, or 3 times 10 to the 14th, and 5 times 10 to the end. So let's go ahead and multiply this out. We get 15 times 10 to the 14th plus n. Well, we know that this is not in scientific notation, so what do we have to do? Well, we're going to have to move the decimal over, which makes this smaller, which makes this 1 bigger. So we're going to add 1 up here. So we know that 14 plus n plus 1, so basically 15 plus n, needs to equal 21. So I'm going to put that over here. 15 plus n needs to equal 21. Well, what plus 15 equals 21? Well, that's easy. It's 6. So n equals 6. And if we checked it out, if we put 6 in here, we would get the correct answer. Alright, so now the U tries. So flip over, and I'm actually going to ask you to pause here. Flip over to 93, and I want you to try this. So pause here and see if you can get them correct. Okay, so for the first one, we got n equals 3. You first multiply your two coefficients. You get 18.87 times 10 to the 8 plus n. But notice how we need to move this one over, which moves this down, moves that plus 1 up. So basically you get 9 plus what equals 12. Well, 9 plus 3 equals 12, so n equals 3. Same thing over here, except you're going to be dividing. 4.5 divided by 9 gives me 0.5 times 10 to the 9 minus n. Well, of course, we have to move this over. So when we move this over at 1, it makes it a larger number, which makes this exponent a smaller number. So we have to subtract 1. So we get 9 minus 1 is 8. 8 minus n equals 2. So what minus, or 8 minus what equals 2? 6. So n equals 6. So please go ahead and do 4.5 homework on digits. Should be numbers 1 through 8. So short assignment today.